severance, Ministry of Environment Procedures D55. Moved by myself that the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee approve the addition of this item for consideration by the committee at today's meeting pursuant to Section 84(3) of the Procedures Bylaw.
Is that carried?
Okay.
Carried. Thank you very much. And as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, just a reminder that the IDPs are not normally dealt with. They're just reports that come back. But because of the interest, committee has agreed to do something we don't normally do and put it on the agenda so that the residents have an opportunity to express their views on that item. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. Moody, who will give us an introduction to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, this item was raised during the open mic on February 6th, ARAC, and members of the committee did ask staff to go back, consider the presentation that was made, and respond back to the members of the committee and council. The memo that's before you is that response. Staff have looked at the presentation. We've looked back into our existing policies. The requirements for good quality water have been in place for quite some time. There was reference to it in the 1997 official plan. The language became more clear in the 2009 official plan update, OTA 76, at the request of a member of the public. But this is something that's been in front of this committee before. Going back, certainly to 2008, there was a rather lengthy discussion of this committee in 2008 with respect to the subject. And staff, upon reviewing the presentation, reviewing the current policies, are not recommending any change to our existing policies as they stand.
Thank you for that, Mr. Moody. And in the report there, and I'm just outlining there was some correspondence that council received saying that there were no municipalities in the outer areas of the city that do use the guidelines. So in fact, some of them do. There are some that don't, but there are some that do use those guidelines for consideration. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Staff surveyed a number of municipalities, both those immediately around us, but also other municipalities like us in Ontario. The information is provided to you in document 3, and there was, it presented a good opportunity to have that discussion with a number of those municipalities that don't currently require the same level of testing that we have. In many cases, that's simply due to the fact that they have a reliable and consistent supply of water, that they consistently get water that meets or exceeds the objectives of the D55 guidelines and the Ontario Drinking Water Standards objectives and guidelines. So many of those areas don't have the same complex geology that we have here in Ottawa. As members of the committee are familiar, from time to time we've had issues dealing with some of the challenges in geology. There's been delegations come to this committee in the past raising concerns about water, and that's something that is really a result of the geology that's in place in Ottawa.
Okay, thanks very much. And we will begin the speakers list in this item. And what we will do is have the speakers come up, and then there may be some questions for staff as a result of those presentations, or there might be questions to the presenters where we go. So, Murray, I guess you're back on deck. We're just going to take these in the order that we have received them, so we're not sliding anyone. So, Murray, then the second speaker will be Shirley Nolan. So, Shirley, if you just get ready, and we'll call you up as soon as Murray is finished.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to start by saying I think that there's an opportunity here with this report before committee to consider a couple of options or a couple of action items going forward. First and foremost, the requirements to complete well testing as part of severance applications in the City of Ottawa is established through policies in the official plan. And if as a result of hearing the delegations this evening, there's some appetite on the part of ARAC to modify those policies, the opportunity is now to do that. Subject to the comments from your legal counsel, it occurs to me that your official plan amendment number 150 is in the hands of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing right now for consideration of approving that official plan amendment, and the opportunity is there for the city to seek modifications to that official plan amendment should you see fit to amend the policies that establish the rather rigorous requirements to prove the quality and quantity of groundwater as a condition of severances. The second observation to make, and Michelle Kearney is not in the room this evening, I don't think, but my understanding is that for some years a work item in the planning department has been to revisit the city's policies and requirements with respect to hydrogeological studies submitted in support of subdivision and severance applications. And I don't know what's become of that work item. Once every year or two I will send an email to Mr. Kearney looking for an update, but I don't know its status, and maybe Mr. Moody could speak to that. The issue in my mind, and other speakers may take a more aggressive role to this than I did, but the issue as I see it is that the Ontario Drinking Water Standards and Objectives establish health criteria and aesthetic criteria for evaluating groundwater. And I'm hard-pressed to argue that we should ignore the criteria with respect to health. But when it comes to the criteria related to aesthetics, the guidelines establish what aesthetics are treatable, but the thing that's unfortunate about that is those guidelines are dated. They're long overdue for review by the Ministry of Environment. And so that the city is relying on outdated guidelines that reflect outdated technologies that have long since improved and been updated to deal with water quality questions. And so that to impose those outdated criteria is placing an unnecessary burden on applicants when they come forward with severance applications to demonstrate that their groundwater meets those criteria, when quite frankly those criteria are out of date and irrelevant in this 10, 15, 20 years later when the technology has advanced. So I'd encourage you to take this opportunity to revisit this and maybe see where the city, the staff is at in terms of coming forward with new policies and criteria that may provide the opportunity to address the concerns of the dozens, if not hundreds of people who are in the room this evening. And last but not least, I think you have an opportunity to address this now in terms of your official plan policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe Councillor Deputy Mayor Nelson has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mary. Obviously, you're on your feet today, so many items here.
It's a big keep.
It's a big keep. Mr. John, I know you've done a lot of severance in our area, especially in our part of the city. Do you agree that D55 regulation need to be current and it need to be revisited by the ministry as we speak? Because I know we hear about technology and different technology, and I'm sure you heard different people spend different amount of money, but there's no recognition from the ministry to a specific technology can deal with the issue and become part of the approval process. What's your take on that?
Yes, absolutely. They're dated documents and need to be revised.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor. And that, I guess, I guess that's the issue is that the regulations that the city feels they have to follow should be updated. And I guess I don't know how much pressure we can put on the province to do that. Maybe if we have an election and a change of government, that those guidelines would be reviewed very quickly. So that's, I guess that's the issue that we're dealing with, is that we want to have, and I think all of us want to have safe drinking water and good water, but the sort of the things that we can work with are the parameters of the province, and we obviously have had any interest in dealing with that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think you've probably heard this over and over again. The language of the guidelines is not entirely prescriptive. The language of the guidelines provides flexibility. And I think what you will hear is that the city doesn't apply that flexibility. The city is far more rigorous in their applicability of the guidelines than many people would suggest to you is either necessary or appropriate.
Thank you very much. Your comments are always appreciated. Shirley. Welcome, Shirley, and you have 5 minutes. And thank you for all the correspondence on this issue. We appreciate it, so that you have a better understanding. So we both have a better understanding.
I never know if it's on or not. Thank you. Okay, it's on now. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and councillors. As you know, my name is Shirley Dolan, and I'm the president of the Ontario Landowners Association. I want to be clear. I'm requesting that the city remove the D55 requirement as a condition of single lot severances, and I'll explain myself here. The previous speaker raised some very good points. I believe that this is a city matter, not a provincial matter. The D55 regulation pertains to municipal communal wells and not to private wells. How do I know this? I've spoken to people at the Ministry of the Environment, and they have confirmed this with me on 2 different occasions. In fact, Mr. Michael sorry, I may be mispronouncing his name, Giannotti from MOE, defined a communal well as 6 or more residential homes. And he did say that at no time was this originally intended for single lot wells. Private wells in the past have and should be again the exclusive responsibility of the property owner. For some reason, staff and or council has decided to attempt the control of land use of private property by making MOE's D55 procedure a condition of severance. And the province really has never intended D55 to be used in this manner. So as the previous speaker said, you have quite a bit of flexibility. In fact, you don't have to use that condition at all. So I want to be clear once again. I am requesting that the city remove D55 requirement from single lot severances. Now, we also know that there has been at least one successful appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board. Councillor Thompson, I believe you brought that up at the February meeting, where a severance was denied because of D55. And I would say that this should have been a strong indicator to both staff and to council that the condition was being inappropriately used. Now, I have here a letter that is signed by MPP Jack McLaren. He had the opportunity to meet with staff from the Municipal Affairs and Housing, I guess last month. And it was a technical briefing. It didn't have to do with D55, but he did raise that issue. And what they said was regarding the provincial policy statement for 2014, that it's outcome-based and it's not prescriptive. It's a set of policies. So in other words, if applicants can meet the policy objectives of the PPS with the assistance of technology, that the application of MOEC 55 is not required. So in other words, if I can put it in my words, if the water that's coming out of the tap is clean, is safe, then the city really has no business in terms of the province, according to the province, in denying the severance. Now, let me be very clear here. What I'm asking is that responsibility be given back to the property owner, that the city not take that burden upon themselves. Now, this has been a long and for some an expensive journey. What began as a simple request to a councillor by a constituent for assistance with a severance has turned into a needless exercise where rural people have to spend many hours researching provincial guidelines and regulations, only to discover that the province...
Shirley,
Yes?
I've neglected my duty. You're down to 40 seconds, so I'll give you a few extra.
Could you please? Okay. All right. I'm just repeating myself here and saying that really the province does not say that the city has to be in the business of regulating the water on private property. So there's one thing that I would like you to clarify as I stop here. I'm assuming that you're going to, because this is now on the agenda, you will vote on it. And you can answer that later. I'd also like to say in closing that I suggest that you may want to consider the wisdom of Prince Edward County, which according to your report had a well policy in place much like the one that you have, and that required D55 for all consents. They have overturned that. What they do now is they put the agreement registered on title that the county is not responsible for deficiencies in water quantity or quality.
Okay. Just a minute, I don't have any questions for Shirley. I think thanks very much for that. I'm too young to be lynched, but the proper procedure is when we're at the committee or council meetings that we respectfully don't jeer or cheer or applaud. So listen, you've had a couple, so maybe we could calm it down a little. The next speaker is Daphne Stelgrove.
I've never talked at one of these before, so I hope that people can hear me. Can you hear me?
And Daphne, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Daphne Snellbrook. I'm a professional engineer retired from the federal government. I'm also a previous resident of what used to be March Township, then was rural Canada, and now it's the city of Ottawa. And if I could have brought my mother, I would have brought her. Unfortunately, she's 98 years old, and she's probably in a position of one of these properties, which if she were to try to sever, would be put into the position that some of these other people are put into. So I agree with the 2 previous speakers that this ministry guideline should just be that. It should be a guideline, and it shouldn't be the basis of denying severances, particularly if the technology is there to ensure that the water is safe and meets aesthetic parameters, which aesthetic are just that. They're not necessarily for safety reasons. And I also think it should be or people should be interested to know that the city of Ottawa, their drinking water is actually taken from the Ottawa River. Which so, if technology wasn't used, the city would actually not be in a position of being able to provide any kind of water to anybody. So I think that is a very good point to note. I'd also like to note that palatable is being used a lot, I believe, in regards to the aesthetic qualities, and palatable is in the eye of the beholder. As I say, I grew up in the country drinking well water. I We had no problems. It was probably didn't meet many of the parameters that are being required to be met today. None of us had any problems, and in fact, I still don't find the City of Ottawa water palatable.
Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Adele Muldoon. Welcome, Adele. It's nice
Thank
to see you.
Nice to be back.
Take it easy on me.
Never. Mr. Chairman and members of ARAC Committee, it's obvious that the report before you has raised the concerns of the rural residents, that landowners are now required to drill a well and have the water tested before being granted a severance. If the city is going to refuse requests for a severance if the water quality does not meet all the provincial guidelines, I doubt that anyone in West Carleton will ever be given a severance again. I can't speak for all the other rural areas, but in West Carleton, there's a lot of salt, sulfur, iron, and any number of other minerals throughout our area. They are not harmful to one's health, and they can be treated. Another alternative for homeowners is to put in a dug well. Some residents choose to buy drinking water with their groceries, just as many urban residents do, if they don't like the chlorine or fluoride content of city water. As long as the water is potable, there is no problem. Document 3 attached to the report is a comparison table for water quality requirements in other municipalities, making it very clear itself that there is a great difference from one municipality to another concerning which, if any, of the guidelines are going to be enforced. It is definitely clear from this that it is at the discretion of the municipality and not up to the province, as we were first led to believe. Following a recent meeting of the Dunrobin Women's Institute, where Mr. Derek Moody was a guest speaker, I phoned the Brantford County Councillor to confirm Mr. Moody's assertion that Brantford County was now implementing the guidelines in the same strict manner as Ottawa's doing. After speaking to his county planner, he assured me that the guidelines are applied only for rural subdivisions and not for single lot severances. Brantford County allows severances that meet all other county requirements without requiring a well to be dug. I also called the planning offices of Mississippi Mills and Lanark County and was told basically the same thing. It just took a phone call. So, in these rural areas that surround West Carleton, rural life goes on uninterrupted. Landowners sever lots for their children so that they can live nearby. Senior landowners without children sever lots for sale so they will have enough money for health to stay in their own homes or to move to a senior's residence if that is best for them. It is the seniors of the rural area that will be hurt most if the city continues to implement the procedures now in place. Over the last 10 years, life for seniors in the rural area has deteriorated rapidly. Home health services have been reduced, transportation costs have risen, and that service is not often available when it is needed most. While the cost of living in rural areas has increased for all residents, seniors on fixed incomes are hit hard. Many are becoming more and more isolated. There are those who would say the answer is simple. The vulnerable seniors should just move to the city. But for some, the trauma of leaving their home and community they have lived in for all or most of their lives would be too much. Others who have decided moving would be in their best interest have run into a new problem that did not exist in our area until recently. They can't sell their homes. Some, whom I know, have had their places up for sale for a number of years and have given up and are now trying to make the best of a very bad situation. There are many, I'm going to have to skip a bit about the reasons for decline in this, but a lot of the reason has to do with new rural regulations by the city. They do not recognize rural landowners' acceptance of the responsibility to have and maintain their own well and septic system. This is what we've done since settlers first cleared our lands 200 years ago. I mean, there's no reason why it can't continue even though we're a part of the city. I sit in a number of city committees concerned with seniors' issues, and I know that the rural seniors situation is not well understood. If the city plans to become an age-friendly city, it must now address the problems of rural seniors and not add to them. I will try to wrap up quickly. I'm just saying that restricting severance is going to destroy the patterns of rural life and make life even more difficult for us seniors. It wasn't long ago that we won the right to once again have severances off our property, and the implementation of this report takes that away from us again. It's just one more broken promise.
Thank you very much. Brian Darcy.